Hello, welcome to Marie's Scrappy Creations, where we sew the scraps of your life into beautiful creations. This week, as promised, I have some little drawstring bags. Now, these don't take very much fabric. They really don't. Whoops, if I could hold on to them. And they're so cute. You could use these for so many things. Look, perfect size for gift cards, for giving for Christmas or birthdays, things like that. You could put some nail polish, things like that. So many things could go in these, and you can make them any size. Look at that. We've got some, it says fabric, rickrack. It has sewing related fabric. You could give this to someone you know who crafts, depending on what fabric you have and what you want to make. Or you can glam it up. Look at that beautiful lace. So you could add buttons, rickrack, lace. I added a button to this snowman one. See, isn't that cute? I just think these are adorable. They're so easy to make. You can make them in any size. You could make them larger, whatever size you want, you could make. And these would make an excellent gift for anyone. So let's go see what we need for supplies. And I'm going to show you how to make it, and you'll be well on your way to wrapping your gifts without paper. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to need. We'll start off with an outer fabric and a lining fabric. Now you can use any width and length that you want. These happen to measure 8 by 14, okay? Both have to be the same, no matter which size you use. Now, I'm going to give the dimensions below in the description box, but this fabric was cut at 10 by 17, but because it was a directional fabric, I seamed it at the bottom. There's a seam so that all the fabric, the writing on the fabric was going the correct way. So if you have to seam yours, you just add your 1/2 inch to whatever measurement. I used my own drawstring, or I made my own drawstring. I cut it 1 1/4 inches wide. I folded it in half and then in half again and sewed it with one seam. Again, all the measurements will be below. But that made a pretty good sized little pouch, I thought. You know, you could gift someone a fat quarter, or, you know, not fat quarter, a charm pack, something like that in there. Let's see what it ended up measuring. It was about 19 or 9 by 8. So 8 inches this way, 9 inches this way. Then we have the smaller ones, and this one was 5 by 10, and this one was 5 1/2 by 10. And each one is a little bit different. This one, I used some of the twine to close, and I thought that would be nice with like nail polish. You could put a gift card in here. Same thing with this one. Now this I did by just taking a 1/2 inch of fabric and folding it in half and sewing across. So as I said, all the dimensions for these will be written below, but the general instructions are all the same. You start with your 2 pieces of fabric that are exactly the same size. The only thing that will change when you do this is either the width of your opening or how far down you come. Of course, you could come down quite a ways to make it look fancier. All right. And then you're going to need, I used both a water or air erasable marker pen, and I used a Hera marker, which if you haven't seen one, it makes a mark on the fabric. Well, you probably can't see it there. It makes a line in the fabric that you can see. Now, you might have a bodkin. I don't, so safety pins work just as well. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch as well as a universal foot. If you'd like to embellish it with a button, you could put a button on there. You could even put buttons on the end of the ties or jingle bells, all sorts of little things. Now, you don't have to make your own. You certainly can use twine. The one that we're going to make together, we're going to use ribbon. So, we will get started. Let's go make a bag. Okay, so we will take our fabric and we're going to fold it right sides together along the long way. So you're going to put it just like that, and you can pin or clip. We're going to make some marks here in a moment, but we want to hold it together for the moment. And we're only going to be sewing the sides here and here. We're not going to be sewing the top at all. And do the same thing with this lining. If you have a printed fabric, just put right sides together. Now on one side of the lining, we're going to leave an opening to turn this out through when we're done. So I'm just going to mark it a few inches right here where I won't sew. Okay, actually I'm going to move these pins because we're going to make some marks. So we're going to take our ruler. I'm going to use my water erasable pen. I'm going to come down 1 inch from the top and I'm going to make a mark. And then I'm going to come down 3/4 of an inch. Now this is going to depend on what you're using for ribbon. Now 3/4 of an inch for the ribbon I'm using is overkill, but I'm using this as an example for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to come down again 1 inch from the top. My marker's almost dead. And 3/4 of an inch. And this is where our opening will be for the ribbon. And while I'm right here, I guess I can mark our liner. Let's do that. So this is where I'm going to use my Hera marker. If you don't have one, you can use the other 1 inch down. And then 3/4 of an inch from there. And that usually will go through both sides of the fabric, but I will check it. Now, do you see my lines? All right, and I do have lines on the other side. And you could certainly go over them if you wanted to. Again, on the other side. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take it to the sewing machine. I want you to back tack, sew until you get right here to your opening, right here. I'm going to put some pins in so you guys can see where I'm referring to, because this printed fabric might make it more difficult for you to see what I'm doing, and I want to make sure you know. Okay, so you're going to use 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to use a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. I'm going to back tack, sew to here, skip over this, back tack, sew to the end, back tack. Over here, same thing, 1/4 of an inch, back tack, and stop. Don't sew this. Back tack, sew, and back tack. On the lining, you're going to use the 1/4 inch again. You're going to back tack, sew to the end, back tack, sew to here, back tack, sew. So you're going to leave this open, okay? And you're going to leave these open, but you're going to sew both sides otherwise. So let's take that over to our machines and do that, and I'll meet you right back here at the sewing table. And I'm back. I have my sewing done. I sewed all one side, left my opening, left my 2 openings here. Now I'm going to turn this, actually I'm not going to turn it yet. I am going to flatten these seams a bit with the iron. Just open those up a little bit. Just like that, just kind of flatten them a little bit. It will make it easier when you match up your seams. Everything will lay just a little nicer. But you know me with my iron. Okay, over here where our opening is, I'm going to press that as well. That's going to make it easier. Oops. So I'm pressing this seam open, and then where our opening is, I've just flattened it. So I'm folding that back for the 1/4 of an inch where the opening is. And then over here, I'm just going to do it the same as we did on the front piece, which was just to open it up. Give it a little press. Okay. Flip your outer piece, whichever your outer fabric is, flip that right side out. If you want to, we can trim these little corners. You don't have to get really close, but just enough to give it a little bit of a cut so that the points will be a little pointier. Our points will be pointier. Isn't that beautiful fabric? I love that. Okay, so this is right side out. The lining is still inside out, and we're going to place one inside the other. You're going to match the side seams, just like this. Pin or clip them into place. Usually do both sides first, and then I go back and divvy it up through the middle. But you do it whichever way you are more comfortable. And I will say that this one should fit around your machine fine, like to put it on the arm of your machine. But these smaller ones, I had to do by laying them this way, sewing from the inside and moving my presser foot along the inside because it was too small to go on the arm of my sewing machine. Maybe yours would work, but mine didn't, and that's how I got around that. Now we're going to take this over to our sewing machines. We're going to sew 1/4 inch. We're going to back tack 1/4 of an inch seam allowance along the whole top. Back tack. Meet me right back here. And that was a quick sew. And this isn't probably necessary, but I do clip a couple of times along each edge. Not directly up to your sewing line, but close to it. I think it turns easier this way. Now, remember our opening in the lining. We're going to pull our fabric out through. You don't need a very big opening for that. I left more than ample room. And if you have any kind of a point turner or something, you might want to use it to just gently push your corners out. And now we have our edge, our opening. And if you did what I did, you have a neat edge right there ready to sew. I'm just going to press it like this. So I'm going to mark the beginning and the end of where I need to stitch that up. You could certainly hand stitch it if you liked. I used to be a stickler for that, and I would only hand stitch, but now I just simply sew about 1/8 of an inch, sometimes closer. I'm going to stitch that closed, and I will be right back. That was just a quick one, wasn't it? I've got strings everywhere. All right. Now I'm going to push my lining down inside. And then I'm going to start evening up the top. So I'm going to roll that between my fingers. Kind of pushing it down when I have it where I want it. And I'll probably give it a quick press as soon as I have this exactly where I want, because then it will stay a little bit easier where I want it while I'm sewing it, because we're almost done. These are so quick and easy, and they're perfect for giving as a gift by themselves, but also to wrap a gift in. I'm just giving it a quick press. I don't want to lose my marks from my Hera marker. And if your fabric isn't as busy as mine and you can use a marker on the outside, you could certainly use that. I'm going to use the Hera marker marks inside, and I'm going to stitch along this line and this line using a 2.5mm stitch length and my universal foot. If you so choose, you can also stitch 1/8 of an inch from the edge. It does make it look more finished to do so. And you could also take lace, rickrack, ribbon of any kind. You could place that at the top. And, you know, there's just so many different ways you could decorate these. So I looked at this and I really like this ribbon, and it matches very well with these flowers. I was just worried about it being this long. If it were a little bit shorter, I'd probably use it, and this one's a little bit too short for my liking, so I'm probably just going to leave it plain. Okay, so let's do our stitching. So if you want a top stitch, you just go 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Then you're going to sew on those 2 lines, okay? You meet me right back here. All right, I have my seams sewn. I went 1/8 of an inch from the top, and then I have my opening, which is more than ample for this 1/8 inch ribbon. It's totally dependent on what your ribbon width is. I had been going to use this one, but it just wasn't the right color green, so I didn't. but I don't think it matters that the opening is too large. All right, so now you want to measure, and here again, this is going to depend on the width of your fabric, because you want your pull string or your drawstring to be past there. I'm going to cut it there, and then I'm going to measure it and tell you what it is. 22 inches. So I'm going to cut 2 at 22 inches. Going to take a safety pin. So I'm going to start on one side in that opening that we left. And I'll work this all the way around. Go right past this opening. Don't even monkey with that. Just keep right on going. And you know, the more I think about it, the more I like that. I might put some here before I'm done. I think it's pretty. It might be a little long, but that might not be a bad thing. Because since this is a holiday gift bag, it should be kind of glitzy, shouldn't it? All right. Now I could add a jingle bell or a button to the end of this ribbon. There's so many different things you could do with your ties. Okay, so there's one side. And now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. But I'm going to start from the side that doesn't have the tie. And you shouldn't get tangled up with your other string. I didn't have any trouble with it. If you do, just make sure you pull your first one back into place when you're done. But I don't think it will get in your way too much. My pin off. And tie these again. I might have left too much string here. I might cut this off, but we'll see what happens. I just wanted to give you guys a general idea anyway of how it's done. You could leave them long, you can leave them short. Okay. Nice drawstring. And I keep looking back at this. Doesn't that look nice? I think that's beautiful. I don't think it would get in the way. Well, it might. See, it's a little long, so it probably would get in the way of the drawstrings. At least, I don't know, but boy, I really like that. Well, well, well. Okay. Well, this was a quick project, and I'm so glad that you hung out with me today to make these. You know, you could wrap gifts in them. You could give them as a gift. You could dress them up with lace, rickrack, buttons. You could applique onto the front. There are so many different ways to finish these and different sizes to make them. And today's creative word of the day is absolutely just going to be easy. It's going to be the word bag. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate that. Until next time, you take care and be kind out there. The world needs more of that. And I'll see you next time right here at Marie's Scrappy Creations. Bye-bye.